morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to talk about the best new budget decks, which have come around with the new Vivid Voltage expansion. We've already looked at the best cards, we've already looked at the best decks, but there are some really, really nice, really budget-friendly options, which are going to be coming around in this set. And quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it would be downright rude of me if we did not have a chat about them. And I want to start off talking about Charizard. I should mention I've done videos about a bunch of these decks. I will pop links to those videos in the description so you can go and peruse them and get deck lists and all of that good stuff. Now, one of the things that makes Charizard such a gosh darn good budget deck is the fact that Charizard is actually in a theme deck. The problem is, what hurts it being a budget deck is bloomin' scalpers. Man, scalpers make me angry. Here is a lovely, I'm not going to tell you the website, I don't want to give them any actual publicity here. But here is a website, and you can see that they are currently selling, and these are on pre-order, they're not even out yet. They are currently selling the Dreadnought theme deck for $6.95, and they are making a big point of how much below RRP this is. They've got the RRP, they've given us the saving. Isn't that nice of them? But the Charizard theme deck they're selling for $22.95, and I don't even necessarily mind that so much. Except that on that listing, they conveniently forget to list the RRP. So when it's below RRP, hey, look how cheaper we are. When it's above RRP, yeah, don't worry about it. Now, you do need to give them a little bit of credit because they are selling the double pack for $26.95, which is 5p below. If you buy the pair of them, they're not being scalped. But if you want to buy the Charizard theme deck alone, oh, they're going to make you pay. And I'm not going to name the website. It's not the only website out there. Loads of people are doing it. And I know the Charizard theme deck is going to sound way better than the Dreadnought one. And I don't care. I really dislike this practice. Hey-ho. But getting back to the point at hand, Charizard then, if you buy the theme deck, you get yourself 2 Charizard, and you get yourself 2 copies of Leon, which is going to give you, and obviously all the pre-evolutions and all that, and that is going to give you a lot of what you need to play this Charizard deck, because I am a big fan of this Charizard deck, especially as a lovely budget-friendly option. Charizard's got a lovely ability, Battle Sense, that lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put one in your hand and discard the others. Can be brutal, but can be very good. And it's draw power at the end of the day. And for just 2 fire energy, you do 100 damage, plus 50 more for each copy of Leon in your discard pile. So that's 300 damage if you've got all 4 Leon in your discard, 330 if you happen to be playing your final Leon this turn, because do remember that when you play Leon, you do an extra 30 damage. But it's worth noting that you do have your ability, which might end up discarding those Leon, which could be a little bit of an advantage. And it is very much worth noting that this is very powerful for a single prize Pokemon. You're going to have your rare candy, which can evolve you up a little bit faster. You're only a 2 energy attack, but if that's still a little bit slow, you could play Welder to attach both those energy and then draw 3 cards. And then use your attachment for the turn on another Charizard. And you only, even if you get a Charizard KO'd every turn, you still only need to Welder every other turn to keep your Charizard rolling. And this has actually been doing a bunch of winning over in Japan. It's proven to be a rather nice little deck. I did a video with 3 winning deck lists, and I suggested it might be the best Charizard deck we've had. And honestly, it very much is a Charizard deck. Now, one of the lists I showed you does actually play Inteleon, which is kind of cool. Nice as an alternate type attacker, does a bit of bench damage, has that awesome ability that when you evolve into it, you get to search for 2 item cards. In fact, trainer cards. Any trainer cards. And the Drizzle, the stage 1, lets you search for any 1. So that's good for consistency. We do see some people choosing to play it with the new Snorlax, that if it's active, you get to draw until you've got 7 cards in your hand and then your turn ends. But the theory here is you use Snorlax to draw a bunch of cards to get you rolling. But honestly, this is a Charizard deck. And the goal of the deck very simply is, I am just going to get 4 Leon in the discard pile and smash. You're going to need to play Ordinary Rod and probably a couple of them, so you don't run out of Charizards. And it is kind of cool that you've got stuff like Giant Half. You discard a card from your hand and then search for 2 Fire Energy from your deck. But you can, of course, discard Leon to do so. I think this stands a real chance to be good. But the other 2 are literally my very favourite decks coming out of Vivid Voltage. And apparently I lean towards being a budget player. Now, one I am absolutely in love with is Cramorant Barraskewda. Now, we've got Barraskewda here, and Barraskewda was the first one that we saw, and I'm a big fan of Barraskewda. It's got an attack for a single water energy that lets you do 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon for each damage counter on that Pokemon, i.e. you are trebling the damage on them. So you can use some weaker Pokemon to hit for like 50 damage, but then you're going to put them up to 150. Honestly, if you just use random Pokemon that hit for like 120, oh, I don't know, top of my head, Excadrill, then all of a sudden, your opponent's Pokemon have 120 on them, and then Barraskewda comes in and puts them up to 360, which means you'll be getting a 2-hit KO on literally anything, which is quite nice. And you can play a bunch of different Pokemon, hitting a bunch of different weaknesses, and you can be spreading damage using stuff like Galarian Zigzagoon and Roxy with Wheezing and all of that good stuff. But the thing is, it actually goes a little bit further. You can play an I'm poking you and then finishing you off with Barraskewda deck. You can play an I'm spreading damage and then finishing you off with Barraskewda deck. All of this is good. But you can also play a deck which revolves around Cramorant. You see, Cramorant's got the attack Continuous Gulp Missile. For just 2 colourless energy, as a non-GX Pokemon, Cramorant can, of course, use Twin Energy. And you discard as many Arrokuda as you like from your bench, doing 60 damage for each Arrokuda that you discarded in this way. 4 Arrokuda discarded is 240 damage. Nice! That'll KO a bunch of 2-prize Pokemon. 3 prizes, you'll get Pikachu and Zekrom, you won't get much else, but 2-prize Pokemon, you'll be pretty good with that. And then, of course, we actually need to look at Arrokuda, and I love that the artwork matches between the 2 of them. It is beautiful. But Arrokuda, for a single colourless energy, lets you search your deck for up to 2 Arrokuda and put them onto your bench. So that means you're going to get your Arrokuda out, and therefore be getting out your Barraskewda, or setting up to attack with Cramorant, even more easily than you would otherwise. And I think this is wonderful. Because you've got Cramorant as a potentially big attacker. You've got Barraskewda as just a lovely Pokemon to treble the damage on your opponent's Pokemon. And you don't need to play entirely water energy, because Cramorant is colourless and Barraskewda is a single energy. And you're talking about a stage 1 line and a basic. Even if you go 4-4-4, that's 12 cards. You can play a whole bunch of other Pokemon, and you can turn this deck into basically whatever you like. One of the things that is very much on my mind is playing stuff like Aurora Energy and playing a bunch of different single-prize, single-energy Pokemon, like Excadrill. Real shame that the Ultra Beasts all went and rotated out, because some of these would be so good right now. Nihilego, never mind. And I think we could be onto an absolute winner here. But if you want me to actually tell you my favourite deck and my favourite budget deck from Vivid Voltage, although if you've been watching my videos lately, this will not be a surprise, it is Donphan or Phanpy something. I have still not figured out the best way to go about playing Donphan. I can tell you that I expect it to be good. Single fighting energy, 120 damage. That's good. We see that on Excadrill. And I know Excadrill hits 180 if you've got 3 or fewer cards left in your deck, but that is an end-of-game attack. It is not an ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill, every-turn attack. Most of the time, you're just talking about an Excadrill with 10 more HP here, which is nice. And the bench damage, but that's not so bad. We'll get to there. Worth pointing out that you've got Martial Arts Dojo, which does an extra 10 damage if you've got a basic fighting on, or an extra 40 if you're behind on prizes. And of course, you are then hitting weakness against stuff like Eternatus, stuff like Pikachu VMAX, stuff like Vikavolt, etc. So you're going to be hitting a bunch of relevant Pokemon for weakness, which is rather lovely. And this is looking like a very good Pokemon indeed. But you are missing that big late game attack like we see on Excadrill. That is a relevant point. But that's where, weirdly enough, Phanpy comes in. You see, Phanpy is awesome. Phanpy's got the attack Strike Back for 2 energy that does 30 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Now, you've got 70 HP, so if you've got 6 damage counters on, you're doing 180 for 2 energy on a single prize Pokemon. Or maybe you're not, because we're also getting Memory Capsule in Vivid Voltage, which is a tool that lets Pokemon use attacks of their pre-evolutions. So if your opponent doesn't KO Donphan, you attach Memory Capsule and then a second energy, and you're hitting for thrice the amount of damage that is actually on Donphan, which would actually max out at 420, which is a little bit over the top silly. Or your opponent's going to go, ha 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 ha, I'm not falling for your Phanpy plan, what do you take me for? And you're going to be like, cool, don't attack my Pokemon, see if I care. Because you won't care very much. And then, of course, don't forget that Donphan will be damaging your bench and powering up Phanpy. And don't forget you've got a natural partner here with Spiritomb. Spiritomb's kind of like Phanpy, except it's got a base 10 damage rather than a base 0. But you got 10 less HP, so higher damage initially, lower damage ceiling. You max out at 160 rather than 180. But until then, you're always doing 10 more than Phanpy. But you've also got the Building Spite ability that lets you put 10 damage onto it. But don't forget that you can always use Jinx to move that damage over to a Phanpy. Or play multiple Spiritomb and use Jinx to move all the damage onto one Spiritomb. You see where I'm going with this? It works rather nicely. Then, of course, we've got Stunfisk. Now, this is one from Unbroken Bonds that people have been trying to use with Spiritomb since it came out. But for just 2 colourless energy, twin energy, you do 30 damage for each of your Pokemon with any damage counters on it. But as soon as you attack once with Donphan, that's all of your Pokemon, except you're active, but you'll get there pretty quickly. And again, Jinx will move damage over if you need it to. And this then gives you another type coverage. So potentially here, you've got Fighting Weakness, Darkness Weakness, and Lightning Weakness all rolling nice and quickly. And I don't know what the best build of this is. I don't know whether it's an aggro Phanpy Spiritomb build, whether it's an early game Donphan and then finishing with Phanpy afterwards build, whether it is a Stunfisk build with a bit of Donphan. I honestly don't know. But I've given you the different options that are around for the deck and how it's probably going to end up working, and I leave it up to you, lovely ladies and gentlemen, to try and figure out exactly the best way to play this card. What I do know is I expect some build of this at some point to be a legitimate tournament-winning level deck, and I know some people won't agree with that, and that's fine, but remember, for a long time, Excadrill was seen as a gimmick deck, and Excadrill has seen a fair bit of success played by a whole bunch of people. You have been warned. So now, ladies and gentlemen, that is my list of budget decks, but I'd like to know from you guys, what do you think about these particular decks, and are there any budget decks that you've spotted from Vivid Voltage that you think need to be added to the list? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.